Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review, the Underachievers, Indigoism. The Underachievers are a New York hip-hop duo affiliated with what is now being called the Beast Coast movement. And basically, they're pretty much just a couple young MCs that embrace that old school hardcore hip-hop style that made hip-hop such a powerhouse in the first place, but have a kind of modern interpretation of it. Fresher style, newer energy, modern lyrics, as well as instrumentals. Now, as far as this Beast Coast movement goes, there are quite a few groups kind of thrown under this umbrella, including artists like Pro Era, Flatbush Zombies, as well as collectives like A$AP Rocky and kind of his A$AP Mob, which is kind of strange to me that, you know, there would be sort of this movement oriented around the East Coast, especially since, you know, A$AP Rocky, for example, has a lot of Southern hip-hop influences that don't really have much to do with the East Coast at all, as well as cloud rap, which I think we can all pretty much agree is kind of an internet hip-hop movement. Trap-style hip-hop, when it comes to the flows and just those rattling hi-hats, I mean, that has kind of permeated every single hip-hop community out there today. And of course, that also applies to the Underachievers too. They have this style that is extremely, extremely indebted to that, you know, hardcore hip-hop era from New York, from the 90s, but they propose that their take and their interpretation is new. Take a look at the track New New York, for example, where they're repeating stuff like, it's a New York thing, it's a New York thing, or that one line that gets dropped, ain't been this good since like the 90s. And all of this is being said with a fiery guitar sample within a boom bap beat. There's an awesome dramatic organ thrown into the mix too, as well as a pretty hilarious Warriors reference right at the beginning of the track. The Underachievers, two members, just have that aggressive, competitive, gritty street attitude with a lot of drug references too, to pot, LSD. But on top of that, a surprisingly large amount of references to things like spirituality, souls, God, and dreams too, as a different mental state. And when the Underachievers mention God, it's not really from a religious standpoint. There's actually a single track on this LP where they kind of seem to spit in the face of organized religion a little bit in favor of kind of putting forward this more abstract interpretation of what God is, kind of referring to themselves and people in general as indigos and supernatural reincarnations. Issa Dash and AK put forward this ideology in numerous songs on here. There are moments where they may come off a little hedonistic, like Herb Shuttles, or maybe kind of one-dimensional, like the vaguely threatening Sun Through the Rain. But this kind of new age third eye talk really sort of leads the way on key tracks on here like Revelations, Philanthropist, Sixth Sense, and the extremely hot Gold Soul Theory. Because Gold Soul Theory is really a song that kind of talks about the pain or the suffering that one can, I guess, sort of put themselves through not understanding what is on their insides, I guess, sort of spiritually. Whether or not you really kind of believe in this metaphysical world that the Underachievers paint with their lyrics, and certainly I don't 100%, their passion for a lot of what they're saying definitely is intriguing. I mean, there's a lot of mentions of gods, demons, pharaohs, kings, spiritual transformations, higher consciousnesses. The Underachievers do a great job of taking that conscious message and idea and, you know, really kind of separating it from that sort of backpack scene that it used to be affiliated with maybe 10 or so years ago. There's even a moment where that is referenced in the lyrics with one particular line like, bet you didn't think a conscious dude could make it sound like this. They really kind of line up their sights when it comes to production too. Indigoism has a lot of skeletal, clean drum machine beats that sound very 808-esque. The sound quality of these beats, they're a little fat, they're a little murky, and a lot of these kind of simple, straightforward beats that do sort of have a modern quality to them are matched up with these either synthesizers or samples that have kind of a pretty glistening quality to them, and they really give the songs that the Underachievers make sort of a mysterious quality, like as if you're hearing some kind of hip-hop transmission beyond the spiritual plane. It gives them some musical depth to go along with their spiritual depth. It's just really kind of a perfect musical pairing. The song Revelations has this beat that comes off really sorrowful, really sad. The song Sun Through the Rain, I'm not really in love with the lyrics, but I love the spacey beat beat on that track, and to me that song and Herb Shuttles as well kind of flirts with the idea of cloud rap in sort of a way, with just a lot of ethereal qualities and some heavy bass. The song TADED has some really awesome chilly vocal samples in there, and the song Sixth Sense has what kind of sounds like this pan flute matched up with these keys that are really, again, sparkling, shimmering. So I really do have to give kudos to the producers on this mixtape as well. While Issa Dash and AK do have a lot of personality and do have a somewhat strong narrative when it comes to this spiritual sort of angle, the beats do make a lot of these tracks fantastic. Now overall, if you give this hip-hop tape a listen, I feel like you're really going to enjoy what you're hearing, especially if you're into artists like Ab-Soul, A$AP Rocky, Pro Era, of course, maybe a little bit of Schoolboy Q when they really kind of go hard and pull out those faster flows. They're just flares of inspiration and similarities with other hip-hop artists that have been hot recently. I don't really have an issue with that because these guys definitely do a great job of separating themselves from a lot of other artists out there with what they say and with the instrumentals that they pick. However, there are moments where they do kind of lose flavor because of an instrumental that isn't that great, a message that's really kind of off-key or not that interesting. Like the track TADED doesn't really say much to me at all other than this whole Beast Coast, Beast Coast, Beast Coast thing. And while, you know, it is a fun thing to assert, it seems like they're the people who are asserting it the hardest and not really the other people that are being kind of thrown into this movement. Like I said, again, the song Sun Through the Rain doesn't really do much for me either lyrically, and the song Potion Number 25 is kind of this loving tribute to LSD, but the lyrics are extremely corny. I'm just this guy with this spiritual healing drug. And there are other songs on here like Leopard Shepherd as well as Land of Lords where the Underachievers are riding kind of an old school boom bap beat that feels maybe a little too light and jazzy, and it kind of breaks the feel of the album, which can kind of be either very aggressive or very mysterious. You know, these are kind of instrumentals that I feel like guys like Pro Era could have rocked way harder. So yeah, there is a good handful of just kind of boring and maybe unlikable tracks on this mixtape. It's almost an hour, and I do feel like there is, you know, a considerable amount of fat on this thing. I do think that the Underachievers have a style. They do have, you know, a message. It's just that they don't really lay on it successfully throughout this entire mixtape. And while I do like this mixtape a lot, and I think that some of my favorite tracks on this mixtape are some of the best hip-hop tracks of the year, I just am not going to forget those songs that I don't like, honestly, which are mostly toward the back end of this thing. I'm feeling a decent to strong 7 on this LP. If you've given it a listen, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Anthony Fantano, The Underachievers, forever.